It is here. The conferences are realigned. People are going everywhere to compete, but it is here for all sports. It is started, and you are about to see it go. And this was crazy when I heard it, but we're seeing it. It's become a reality. It's going to be interesting to see the results of this travel around the United States for a lot of college athletes. Hello. My name is Ed Jones II. I am the founder of the Beyond the Field program, where we help impactful people like you create player development plans. And this is going to be crazy, y'all. This conference realignment, I was just doing a chart for player development growth. Every year I do this video, this study I do for player development growth, and just putting these conferences and these teams and schools together is crazy. It is crazy, but it's here and we're going to see it and we're going to talk about it. And so we're going to talk about it. I did a video when all these different conference alignments were happening and just everything was going where it was going. And in that video, I shared a couple things. And so I shared the 3 major concerns I had about this realignment. I shared the 3 major focus areas that one should focus on during this realignment. And I shared 3 outcomes that I think would happen because of this realignment. So let's check out this video and put in the comments the craziest game travel you think is happening. Like, in your opinion, like, this is crazy. Also, if you get anything from a player development pod, like and subscribe. Conference realignment. I mean, it is crazy. Everybody's going out west, getting schools out of the Pac-12. What is the Pac-12 going to do now? The Big Ten is going coast to coast. The Big 12 is going to the west. What is everything that's going on? You've seen it. We know it's about money, TV deals. And we'll talk about it in this episode. Are the student athletes being cared about? But today, I always focus on player development. So we're going to talk about player development and the expansion of these conferences. Hello. My name is Ed Jones II, and I'm the founder of Beyond the Field program, where we create impactful player development professionals and programs by providing clarity. And I am the host of this podcast, the Player Development Pod. Thank you so much for tuning in. Well, let's get straight into it. Y'all saw the news. Oregon and Washington going to the Big Ten. Utah, Arizona State, Arizona going to the Big 12. Colorado going to the Big 12 a couple weeks ago. And now you have 4 schools left in the Pac-12, and it's a lot going on. A lot. You got the Big East is literally, on each coast of the United States. And so when I look at this stuff, of course, it's driven by money. All they're talking about is TV rights and this dollar and that. If you haven't figured it out about college athletics at this point, you need to catch up. This is why I love NIL, because NIL gives the athletes an opportunity to make money. I was always against those who said players shouldn't make money, because I knew situations like this would happen where people who, adults, for lack of a better word, or professionals, do what they need to do what's best for them to get money for the conference and themselves. So if you're an athlete, listen to this, continue to get your money. But let's jump right into it. When we're talking about expansion, and we're talking about things, I have 3 major concerns when it comes to the expansion of conferences and player development. Number 1 is student athletes. That is always the greatest concern. In situations like this, the student athlete and what they're going to be asked to do is unreal. Now, I've been at football. My experience is in football. So we play once a week and we chartered everywhere we went. So there will be difficulty, but it will be a little easier than other sports at certain schools. But you're talking about, you look at, let's use the Big Ten, for example. Playing a game in Rutgers. Let's say Rutgers goes to play UCLA, goes back home, plays a home game at Rutgers, and then comes right back out to play USC. Now, whoever's doing the schedule of the Big Ten and those conferences, the Big 12, I didn't even talk about the ACC. The ACC's thinking about expanding. Whoever's doing that scheduling, that's going to be incredible for them. But I think about student athletes and just what's being asked for them. So let me give you some behind the scenes, what goes on during a football trip. So a football trip, where we kind of walk off the field Thursday, we're good. Friday, we're getting prepared. The people who come on these trips with us on Friday, our academics team comes. Our players are in class until about 12 o'clock everywhere I've been. Or if we have to leave earlier because it's an early game on Saturday, they get excuses. But the players are going to school and they have assignments that are due. Just like any student, the student athlete, right?
And you couple that with this travel and them trying to get things done and what's going to be asked of them, not only academically, what's already tough for them to do, be a student athlete. I know some of you all are, oh, well, they're on scholarship and blah, 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 blah. I'm not trying to hear that noise because they are being students. A lot of students on the university could not be athletes, could not do what they do. So let's just get that out of there, right? But they're being asked to not only perform high at a high level, but to take care of grades. And now they're doing these coast-to-coast trips. If anybody's ever traveled coast-to-coast and through time zones, it can get to you. You think about the Rutgers players or the players on the West Coast, the UCLAs, the USCs, whatever it may be. They're either playing at certain times when they're either asleep, if it's someone coming to each coast, or when our body's not used to being active. So if I'm used to 11 o'clock kicks on the East Coast, well, that's 8 o'clock. 11 o'clock kick on the West Coast, that's 8 o'clock back home, where I'm probably getting ready for the game, watching TV, eating breakfast. So there's a lot of time zones there, time zone issues there. But I think just the fatigue that these athletes will have from all the traveling. Like I said, whoever schedule it, hopefully they schedule it to where some teams stay on the coast. But even if you stay on the coast, let's say, use the example, Penn State goes, they got to play UCLA, USC in back-to-back weeks, and they decide to stay on the West Coast. Where you're getting these players out of their systems. You're getting them out of their academic systems. How do I do things? Their training systems, their life systems. It's just a lot. And that fatigue, mentally and physically, I think will be a lot. And that's talking football. I can't imagine for the people who have to play games twice a week. Your men's basketball, women's basketball, softball, baseball, and there's other sports I'm probably missing where you compete twice a week. Normally a Sunday, Tuesday, Friday, weekend type combo. But I just can't, once again, either they're going to have to stay out on the coast or they're going to be doing volleyball as well, where they're going to be doing a lot of bouncing. And that is a lot to ask of a student athlete. Once again, I don't know who's scheduling that, but they need to take care of that. One of the head coach at Missouri, Eli Drinkwitz, talked about it. But mental health, this mental health, being in a role in player development, mental health has been huge with athletes right now. And this is another area where, this is going to take a strain on their mental health. And you have to be prepared for those conversations where players may come in and say, I'm fatigued, I'm tired, I'm done, what's going on, what's happening, this is a lot, but it's going to happen, and I feel for the athletes, and I really, really hope people put in systems for the athletes. If you need help putting the system, hit me up, I got you. My number 2 concern is staff. Now I worked on staff, we didn't have to do everything the athletes did, of course, but it is a very high stress, and just a lot of time away from family in general. Now you add the different time zones, different travel, different areas you got to go play. And I just think about the staff and their times away from family. I heard this stat when I was a young high school coach, and somebody said the 2 professions with the highest divorce rate are doctors and coaches. And I unfortunately have seen that in my career. And I just feel for those families, that staff that has to deal with that, not only for their families, but once again, going back to the analogy I used earlier, if a football team has played 2 games on the West Coast, then they just got to stay out there. And that's time away from their systems, their family, how they do things, and of course, all these people, they're going to overcome it, right? They're going to figure it out. But these are factors or concerns that I have with this. Staff, it just even, maybe people will lose staff. Some staff may say, you know what, this conference does a little too much coast-to-coast traveling, or I was used to a regional time zone or a regional area. Maybe I want to go somewhere else. Maybe this is too much strain for me. I think one thing that's going to happen for sure with these TV rights, these dollars are about to go up. These coaches, I'm maybe I'm the first one to say it, but in the next 10 years, some head coach will be making $20 million a year. I'll put money on it. I'll say that. But with that comes a lot more responsibility. And then the staff, you got to think about it. You can add this with staff and players. You think about NIL or what they could do here, what they could do in this state, the staff helping as much as they can, the players and different things like that. But the travel and just everything they had to keep up with, the operations people who have to get with hotels and figure out the travel in this hotel, it's a lot. It's a lot. And I hope that those systems will be there for them. But that's another concern. And then the last concern I have is families. The families of the student athletes. A lot of athletes, pick schools to play where their families can come see them play. I'll talk about that a little bit. We'll kind of talk about some outcomes later in this podcast. But families, if someone's used to the Pac-12, if there's a player from Los Angeles or San Diego or the Bay Area where they want to stay in the Pac-12, is they're playing anywhere from Washington State all the way down to Arizona State, kind of on the West Coast. Their families enjoy that. I get to go see them. Maybe there's family members in other areas. It'd be a strain on families. That's a high ticket. Those shout out to all the families I know that went to every single where I was at football at his son's games. That was incredible, but I know that costs a lot. You're thinking about a family member now. Okay, let's say someone from UCLA, they went to Stanford to play. The parent buys a ticket. Boom, they get the ticket. They can come back that night or early next morning. That might not be the case on the coast. They may have to stay an extra day, or the ticket is the cost may be too much for them to go visit. And now this player may not have their family or support, or this family that's always supported this player may not have the opportunity to do so. And that's just another concern of these conferences. Although the big three I talked about is student athletes, staff, and families. But we'll talk more about families here as we transition.
All right, so we're going to pause right there. Once again, I want to introduce myself. I'm Ed Jones II. I'm the founder of Beyond the Field program. And some of you all may not know that I served as a director of player development at the University of Houston, University of Kansas, and Baylor University for their football teams. And what I did was I documented everything I did in the role, and I put it in a book. The Player Development Guide highlights the Beyond the Field program that I used to help me find success in the role at those three universities. If you want to take from what I did in my career and use it to impact you, the book is in the show notes. What I want you to do is go to the show notes, click the link next to the Player Development Guide, and get that book. It'll be in your email by the end of the video. Check it out. It's going to help you. Trust me, it's immeasurable value in that ebook. Let's get back to the video.
Here are my 3 focus areas. Number 1, I talked about earlier, is mental health. You have to be focused on the mental health of your student athletes. That is paramount, very paramount. I was thankful. I saw a post about Coach Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss and his whole entire staff getting mental health first aid, for his entire staff. I thought that was great. We were able to do that while I worked at the University of Kansas, so I was mental health first aid certified. But that is a major focus area, for your student athletes. If it was me, if I was in a role, I would make connections in many places I could. But definitely I would ask for support, more resources for mental health, because that is going to be huge with the student athletes. Number 2 focus area is academics. I talked about it earlier, but academics, I know there will probably be more academic staff traveling when you're traveling to games and things like that, but you have to focus on academics out with the athletes, because that fatigue is going to be real. That fatigue is going to be real with not only athletes, but even in some cases, the academic staff. But you know who, in some cases, may not give as much leeway or understanding? Sometimes it's professors. So you have to stay on that. You have to focus on academics as an athlete. You have to. It's going to be tough. It's a lot of changes, a lot of movement, a lot of logistics behind making sure they get assignments in. And this is the key: when you get assignments in, if they're traveling in the right time zone. So you got to think about the time zones as well. If we're flying west, you're thinking, hey, you got a little more time. You got a little more time to turn in that assignment, possibly, right? If flying east, maybe not, or maybe I got that mixed up, whatever. But y'all need to figure it out. You need to figure out academics, the time zones, and how that will affect the athletes. And then the third focus area I talked about a little bit when I talked about the concerns is you need to be focused on the families. How do you communicate with the families when they cannot travel to certain games? How can you create a stronger family relationship or family engagement with your program when you're going out to different places and families can't go, or when they can come? How do you help them? There's new places. A lot of families, they've been doing it so long, they know certain places, or they go eat at certain places, certain cities. How do you help them? But you have to help these families. You need to be focused on these families, specifically for these players, if they're used to family being there and different things like that. But that is a focus area. Families, and making sure that as this transition is happening, that they're okay, that they understand you're answering all their questions and being for them as well. So those are the 3 focus areas. Once again, mental health, academics, and family. Now, here are some outcomes that I believe will happen because of conference realignment. And the first one I believe is super, super positive, and that is more player development positions. Now, this is a player development pod. That's all I talk about is player development. But I truly believe, and I am really, really excited to see this, that there will be more player development positions created. I know if I was in the role and I had to go coast to coast or travel a little further out, had all these changes, I would beg my head coach and athletic director for more help as we get things done. So I expect a lot more positions to be filled, and those positions will be focused on mental health. You may have positions focused on academics and things like that. But wherever I worked, I always about the academics team. I always worked hand in hand with them, so you can do that. But there will be more positions, and I can see people doing it to where you break it up by classes. Like, hey, you're working with the newcomers. I got the old heads. Someone has that middle group. Let's work together. But I do believe there will be more player development positions because athletes will speak out about their experiences. They will speak out about the fatigue. They'll speak out about how it's been uncomfortable, whatever it may be. And the reaction is going to be, they're going to need more people, more resources for the athletes. And I believe that will come in player development positions. The number 2 outcome I think is going to happen is recruiting. I think this may affect recruiting. There may be some athletes that say, you know what? I don't want to get in that conference. I don't want to do all that. My family wants to stay in this area. I'm good. I'm going to go play in this other conference at this university because of the familiarity I have with the area and how my family could have access to games. When I was at the University of Houston, my alma mater, shout out to them. They're going to the Big 12. Shout out to University of Houston. That is long overdue. But when we're at the University of Houston, we were able to get a top 5 recruit, the best defensive lineman in the country, 5-star recruit, Ed Oliver, because his brother was on the team. And Ed Oliver had a scholarship offer from every school in the country. Shout out to Ed. He was a first-round pick of the Buffalo Bills, and he signed his second contract. Shout out to you, Ed. I think it's $45 million guaranteed. Proud of you. Happy for you. But anyway, back to the story. Ed could have went anywhere, but his brother was on the team, and he said, I just don't want my parents to do all that traveling. I don't want them to do all that traveling. So Ed committed to us at University of Houston and had an incredible career, as I just talked about. Like first-round pick, signed a second contract, $45 million guaranteed. He's had an incredible career. And I bring this up because I talked to a scout one time, and I asked him, what would you tell high school students that they don't know? And he said, you just got to get film. You got to get film in the NFL. They really don't care where you play. They'll come and find you. There's so many success stories about the NFL, people and them finding people at all different types of schools. I mean, you can look at the Hall of Fame every year. There's somebody from a university that wasn't a big university, and they just had film. So Ed came to University of Houston. He balled out. He had film. Was picked in the first round. I know I've been using the West Coast in a lot of examples. That's because a lot of these conferences went to the West Coast to get players. But you think about a player, they may, whatever they're going to build up in the West Coast next conference that may come from the Pac-12 or others, Mountain West, whatever, that player may say, you know what? I'm going to stay out here. My family's out here. I'm going to ball out here. I just got to get tape, and I'll be fine. That could be an outcome where some athletes just don't want to do all that. That's an outcome that is a possibility with this expansion. And then the last outcome is something that's actually happening right now. If you're not familiar with athletic stats, a lot of people are getting out of college athletics because of a plethora of issues. They're getting out of college athletics, and I can see this continue to happen when you add to travel. I talked about academic stat. They already have a lot. Shout out to all the academic staffs I work with in my career, and you academic staff people out there that are listening, thank you so much for what you do. They already deal with a lot while we travel during the season, and I can't imagine how much more this is going to add to their plate and what they have to do and what's being expected of them. And you may see athletic staff in certain other areas outside of player development say, you know what, it's been a good run, but I'm out of here. And so I think that may be an outcome. And if you're an athletic director listening to this, or you want to be athletic director, you listen to this, I think you need to have some type of plan for that. So I honestly do believe we're already going through right now where a lot of people are leaving, very, very skilled people who have done a lot of great things, very, very talented. They're leaving college athletics, and I honestly think that is going to continue to happen with this expansion. So that's that right there. So that's what it is. This may be exciting news to some of you all. I know I was excited for my school, University of Houston, getting in the Big 12. Just made geographic regional sense for the Big 12 to do that. But I do agree with some of the people who don't fully enjoy the full expansion of some of these conferences. It's off of money, and I think that's tough because I'm all for student athletes. And it's just tough to see. I know people got to do it. Athletes still got to play. It's going to happen no matter what I say. Yeah, there may be nice rivalries, but I'm kind of traditional. I like the old rivalries, the geographic and regional rivalries. And so it's kind of tough to see that. It's tough to see, no West Coast conference. But you know what? These TV deals, Fox, ESPN, and some of the rest of them are paying a lot of money. And so these conferences, those in leadership are making the best choices for the university as a whole. So that was the episode right there. I had my 3 concerns. My 3 concerns were for the student athletes, staff, and their family. I had my 3 focus areas after that, which is mental health, academics, and families. And then I had the 3 outcomes from this conference expansion, which is more player development positions. Let's go. And if you're looking for player development people and you want to get into the role, you need to get in the course, I got you. If you're looking for the people, I got people that went through my course, they're prepared. If you're looking to learn more about player development, I have a course. Click the link in the bio, join the course, and learn about player development. Anything player development, you listen to this, you're athletic director, I got you. I'm so serious about that. So the outcomes, more player development positions, it will affect recruiting, and athletic staff will possibly leave college athletics because of that. Well, thank you so much for checking it out. If you like anything I talked about in this podcast, please click the like button and subscribe.
So like I said, it's here. It's crazy. It is a new reality. And so we're going to see what it's like. I already have my thoughts. I'm interested. I'm diving into every article, every quote. I'll be looking at press conferences to see what athletes are saying and coaches are saying. I have my own thoughts about how long this will be going on. I think everybody will go back to their original conferences. But anyway, we're here. And so I wanted to talk about it. To the athletes who are traveling, good luck to you during the season. Good luck to you not only on the field or wherever you compete, but good luck to you in the classroom academically as you have to take care of those, requirements with all this travel. And another reminder, take care of yourself. This is a lot. Take care of yourself. Also to the coaches, good luck to you. Take care of yourself. Spend time with your family. You're going to spend a lot of time away from your family with all this travel. Keep the main thing the main thing. If you're a student athlete, if you're a coach, if you're an administrator, keep the main thing the main thing. In 10 years, you don't want to look back and say, man, I lost something because I didn't take care of something 10 years ago because of this schedule, whatever it may be. Now, I understand. I'm not saying don't compete at the highest level because you need to. I believe in that. But take care of yourself. And as always, go out and create generational impact. Don't wait. Create that generational impact today.